Do you ever think the grass is greener on the other side? That's called the shiny object syndrome. And you find out that the grass is never greener. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Today I'm going to talk to you about the shiny object syndrome and why we suffer from this. Because if you have the shiny object syndrome, you're going to believe that the grass is greener on the other side. And anytime things get rough, when life gets difficult, when challenges become overwhelming, when the workload seems like it's too much, you're going to look for the next best thing, the next easy solution. And you're going to think that that path is better than the one you're on. Every creation in life, anything you want to set out to create for yourself, your life, your career, relationships, is going to have its challenges. No matter what arena you're in, you're going to have challenges. The reason why the shiny object syndrome is a problem is because you're never going to come to any sense of completion. You're just going to chase after the next best thing and leave everything incomplete, unfinished. When you leave things unfinished, there's always going to be a feeling of not being complete. And that will just linger. And it's going to go into your character as having little integrity. You never follow up or follow through with things. Now, I'll share with you a story about how I went through this. You know, when I was younger, I was, call it a big fish in a little pond. I was a little skateboard star in my hometown in New Jersey. Not too many people skateboarded, and so I was the only one. And for some reason, my parents raised me to be a high performer. Nothing was ever good enough for them, so I always pushed myself to be better than I was than yesterday. And I had dreams of being a professional skateboarder, and I thought that life would be better because it would somehow be easier. All I had to do was do what I liked doing, and I would get paid for it. That's what I actually believed when I was a teenager, that all I have to do is do what I like doing, and I would get paid for it. I mean, think about how delusional that is. So I later realized, hanging out with skaters, that some of them did become pro. I realized, well, I don't have what it takes, and that's okay. I pursued architecture, but I also got into snowboarding, and I began to accelerate at snowboarding. And I thought, the same idea. I can become a professional snowboarder, and life would be easy. All I got to do is do what I love doing, do what I find fun, and everything will work out. Will just magically work out. You know what I mean? Really, really delusional. And it was really a desire for fame and glory and to be admired by all. I relished in the admiration. People looked up to me, and I thought, wow, fame is good. But I was just a big fish in a little pond. It's just a fantasy. It was my fantasy of wanting to be loved and wanting to belong. Ultimately, that's what it came from. And I wasn't seeing the real work, the real character, the intent, the substance, the true love of it. For me, it was an ego trip. It was just be admired by all, and everything will work out. And I'll experience the comfort and the pleasure and the ease of living that I desired, because I was trying to escape feelings of depression from the trauma that I endured when I was younger, when I was 4 and 5. And the feelings of despair and rage that I was going through. I was a very angry kid growing up. I just tired of being angry. I just wanted things to be easy. Like, I was very competitive with everybody, not just myself. And it just drove me, it really stressed me out a lot, I'll put it that way. I was always in a hypervigilant state and always living to be better, just trying to prove myself all of the time. And I was like, well, if I can come to a state where I have proved myself, in other words, becoming pro, then I no longer have to prove myself. I can just be myself and relax and have fun and enjoy life. I would make it. You know what I mean? Everyone wants to make it. And little did I know, it just didn't work out. I mean, I even went to snowboard camp and talked to some pro snowboarders and asked them, what is it going to take? I'm doing the same tricks they are and, learning even within that week. And I thought, wow, it really boosted my ego. Well, I can be pro. What do they got over me? Later found out after going back to school for psychology, I had a housemate named Richie that was a former pro snowboarder. And I asked him about the industry. He said, it's not about how good you are. It's really about how hard you party and who you know. And it's like, politics, you know what I mean? Like in any situation. And what he meant by that was, well, you're essentially a walking advertisement. You wear the clothes, you show the board, you're an advertisement. You're a spokesperson for whatever company sponsors you. And people have to know your name and face, which means you got to go to all the industry parties. That's why it's how hard you party, because you got to party when you go to these industry parties. You're not just going to hang out and say hello. They party pretty hard. So you got to go to all the industry parties so your name and face is known. And that's how you get sponsored. It doesn't matter how good you are. He said there's plenty of good snowboarders in the Colorado Rocky Mountains that are better than a lot of the pros, but nobody knows who they are because they don't go to the industry parties. And I realized, well, I'm already studying psychology. I want to help people, and this is where my true passion is. This is where my heart really is. All that stuff was an ego trip, and I thought, it would be a better life. And even having the dream of an enormous healthcare practice, easy streak, the idea of success, just sit back, help people. In other words, I oversimplified it. All I got to do is do what I like doing. I can help people, and I'll get paid well, and then grow that practice. It would just magically grow by itself without any work, no marketing, no connecting, no networking. Shiny object syndrome. How life would be better if only. And that's the problem with the shiny object syndrome. It's if only. It's conditional. You develop the idea that life is going to be easier and grant you all the wishes you want, all the pleasures you want, all the comforts you want, if it were this, only if it was this, whatever circumstance you think is better than the one you're in. It's like this. You're in a relationship. You may think, well, if only I had a better body, my girlfriend would find me more attractive. Or you're looking for a girl and you're like, well, if I was in shape, I'd pick up girls easier. If I had a nice car. If life would be better if I had a Lamborghini. Life would be better if I had a 20,000 square foot home. Life would be better if I had a trophy wife. Or the other way around for the women. Life would be better if I had a millionaire boyfriend. Life would be better if I found a husband that drives a Lamborghini. Who says that life is going to be better just because you have a Lamborghini? I mean, you think Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, his life is easy? You don't see the work that he's doing. Jeff Bezos, one of the wealthiest men in the world. You see him at these industry parties, Hollywood parties now. And it's all glamorized. He's got this big yacht. You think, wow, the life. But you have no idea the work he did to get there. Now, maybe you don't like him. You think he's a dirtbag. But that's besides the point. You have this idea, usually it's some celebrity, that if you had what they had, life would be easier. But it's like you're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. You're only seeing what's on the surface, how beautiful. Look at that iceberg. Let's take pictures of it. But you don't see what's underneath. And your ship hits it and you crash. Such is life. Elon Musk, he works around the clock. He only gets 4 hours of sleep a night. But he loves what he's doing. To him, it's not work. To him, he's just doing what he loves doing. If you want to make a lot of money, you've got to make an enormous impact on the world you live in, the culture, the city, the setting, whatever environment you're in. Most of the people that make a lot of money, if you look up to that, if that's your goal, he make a huge impact. If you're not making a huge impact, you're not going to make a lot of money. Life isn't going to be easier. In other words, you're stuck in a worker bee mentality. You just work for paychecks. You work to pay bills. And you're in a survive and fix mindset. And that living from survival is certainly not satisfying or fulfilling. And the key to finding fulfillment is to not live just out of survival. It's to live out of purpose. It's to live out of conscious intention. It's to live out of, usually there's some sort of altruistic desire. Whether it's just helping your family out, whether it's just helping the team at work, that you're on, just benefiting the team, being a team player. Whether it's you have a vision for yourself within a company and you want to grow that company and help that company scale by organizing the workflow, moving up to project manager and director. That's usually the corporate ladder. You move up in management. Or you become, some financial director. You move up in finances. Or you open your own business. You become an entrepreneur. You have this vision of a better life, and you think life is going to be better if only. The thing is you don't see the work to get there. And if you don't enjoy the work, in other words, if you're only doing something for money, when things get hard, you're going to bail out because it's not what you thought it was. I mean, you ever go out, you pick up, you find a girlfriend, if you're a guy, or a girl, you find a boyfriend, or whatever your taste is, you find a partner, and you realize they're not who you thought you were. Life was great, the arrows, the romance, everything, you're in la la land, I'm so in love, I found the one, and then all of a sudden you realize they're not who you thought they were, and they're irritating you, it becomes a toxic relationship, you're arguing all the time, you're belittling each other, you're not communicating, you're not empathizing, and you're just putting up with each other, but you stay together because the sex is good. You soon find out that shiny object is not shiny. So then, what happens. It's not about a relationship, but you wind up looking for somebody else, thinking that they're better, thinking that life is going to be better. Another shiny object syndrome. Instead of working through all of the ups and downs, working through the issues, learning to become a more effective communicator, learning to develop more efficient work tactics, understanding your key performance index, whether you're in business, whether you're a manager, whether it's just your own workflow, whether it's just your own personal life, understanding what key things in your life matter, what key things in the day. Every successful person has a daily task. You don't just wake up and say, I'm going to go with the flow. That's what you do when you're on vacation. It's not what you do to create a successful life. And the problem with this shiny object syndrome, it has its roots in impulsivity, living life impulsively, going from one thing to the other, never following through with anything. And that impulsive lifestyle, which I very much know, I lived that life, a very free-spirited person in my younger days. It's fun and it's exciting. My cousin once said to me at a family gathering, he goes, I can tell you're a free-spirited person. You're kind of impulsive. Would you say that's true? I said, yeah, I'm pretty much go with the flow, do what I want when I want. And he goes, oh, that's nice. I usually don't make any money living like that. I was like, who cares about money like that? I'm enjoying life. To me, what gives me a rich life is experience. I'm going for experience. And he's like, oh, I get it. I wish you luck in that. What are you going to do when you have a family, when you have kids, and you got college tuition, or you got bills to pay? What are you going to do? And I was like, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. And I said, yeah, I see who you are, and it's pretty much like you're a freaking loser. You're never going to make anything in your life, living life like that. You're going to live life paycheck to paycheck. And he was right. It wasn't until I became a doctor and set up my own practice, I realized the scope of creating my own life, what it really meant to work. Even when I got my first full-time job, I realized, it requires integrity. Integrity is what matters, besides the hard work and actually being competent. And I found that people in the 9-to-5 world are actually good people. I came from being a punk rock rebel mentality, hating corporate America and hating the idea of having to work 9 to 5. Now, many of you are in that position of working 9 to 5, and you may feel like you're just slaving away, and that life would be better if you had this higher position, if you worked for a different company. If there's you got a $10,000 raise a year, that life would somehow be easier. But if you ask anybody who gets that $10,000 raise, $20,000 raise, a higher paying position, that money is eaten up. And life doesn't get any easier because what you do is you begin to buy more expensive toys. You begin to buy, a nicer car. You think life would be better if you had the BMW. Life would be better if you had the Lamborghini. It doesn't work like that. People who live at that level have their own headaches too. People who are seven-figure earners, and some who are even seven-figure a month earners, have their challenges. The only difference between them and yourself is their leadership, is their ability to be clear about what they want, about the impact that they want to create, and have a clear path on how to get there. And instead of being a slave to their work, they make their work serve their vision. In other words, they organize their workflow of how can I create that? How can I enroll others to delegate work towards? How can I create teamwork to make that happen? The shiny object syndrome is a self-deluding, self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. Impulsive lifestyle has its roots in trauma. Because of the emotional dysregulation created by trauma, you're going to, whether you know it or not, a lot of people have trauma in their childhood and don't remember it. The last thing you want to do is feel these awful feelings of anger, rage, fear, guilt, and shame, and despair, agony, and terror, and anguish. They're not pleasant emotions to feel. You don't wake up today to feel, I want to feel anguish today. So the brain suppresses them, and it's stored in your subconscious, unconscious mind. And when you start working really hard, you start working long hours, these emotions will come up. And it's going to affect your ability to commit to action. It's going to affect your ability to have a clear vision as to what you want to create for yourself. And you're going to live life impulsively. And things get hard, you're just going to pick up and leave. I mean, how often do you see this in marriage? How often do you see this? I see this in small business owners. They're in denial about what it takes to succeed. No, I have to market. I don't want to do that. I just want to go by word of mouth. Great. We'll see how fast your business grows. That's why within the first 3 years, most retail businesses fail because they don't know how to market themselves. They don't know how to develop a relationship with their clientele. And they don't know how to organize their workflow to create efficiency. And they find themselves working 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. And they get overwhelmed and they're burnt out. So the shiny object syndrome, again, has its roots in trauma. Because of the emotional dysregulation, you need to heal those emotions. You need to process those emotions because you're identifying with them. You're identifying with survival patterns, with survival strategies that are based upon those traumatic experiences, how you got through them. And that becomes your whole way of being, of just living by a survival strategy. And when your nervous system is overwhelmed because of the trauma, your stress bucket is going to be smaller. So when things get tough, you're going to feel overwhelmed and it's going to stress you out. You're going to get triggered. And that's when you begin to look for the next best thing, the easy path. Let's go out for dinner when we need to budget. Let me go buy this because it makes me feel good in the moment when I really can't afford it. I mean, credit card debt is off the roof because of the shiny object syndrome. It's impulsive living, and it's a shortcut way to deal with stress and bad feelings. It's not a proper way to go out and spend all this money when you can't afford to spend it because it makes you feel good in the moment, because you're avoiding feeling sad, angry, stressed, whatever it is. The shiny object syndrome will get you into a lot of trouble. So you got to deal with these emotions, these unresolved emotions that are coming to the surface. And it helps to do that by having someone to talk to, because they may not be at the surface. You may not be aware of them fully. In fact, you may be in denial of them. Most people are. But I can tell by the way a person behaves whether or not they have trauma. I can always tell when someone has PTSD or CPTSD. Don't ask me how. I can recognize it. It's usually in the form of hypervigilance. And you can feel them. There's a state of stress that they're in. It's almost like a state of, it's a hypervigilance, and it's almost like they're freaking out all of the time. And they're just walking around like that. I walked around like that for a long time. That's how I know. Ultimately, you want to find inner peace. You want to find clarity. You want to find contentment, a sense of completion and fulfillment within you. And that's how you find satisfaction. If you can't operate in a state of clarity, in a state of contribution, because you're stuck in survival, which is dealing with things, you're never going to improve your circumstance. You're never going to get that promotion you want. You're never going to expand your business and scale your business. You're never going to flourish in your relationship because you're just doing things to fix things. You're living just to fix things rather than to create things, rather than to contribute to life. If this is what's going on in your life and you find yourself stuck in a career bottleneck and you want to get to the next level, you have to level up in your life. And no one's gotten there alone. I've had business coaches, and without them, I would not be where I am today. They've helped me tremendously, not only in mindset, but in tactics, or not only in tactics, but in mindset. You need both. And I can help you do that. Like, I'm not better than anybody. I'm just further down the road. I'm a transformational mindset coach, and I can teach you how to cultivate a leadership mindset within yourself so you can stop living impulsively, stop chasing after the next best thing, and actually commit to your goals so you can fulfill them and manifest and create the life you truly want to have that's fulfilling, rewarding, and you can experience abundance and freedom. The freedom you truly deserve. Nobody was meant to slave away at a 9-to-5 job in some cubicle, living paycheck to paycheck. You want to create abundance. And I can help you do that. So if you're looking, is this something you're interested in? Leave a comment below. Let me know where you're at in your life, and I will respond to those. So we can set up a complimentary discovery session so I can sit down and get to know what it is you truly want to create for yourself. And then we can create a plan to get there. This is Dr. Spencer Coaches. Thank you so much for listening. I sure hope that helps.